Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's GLHF. It's MTG. It's Joshua Jones here with another Commander deck tech for you. And we're going to go ahead and continue our Dominaria Legends with Grand Warlord Radha. So we went from the little black-white situation with the Knights to the white-red situation with the Burn, Fire Song, and Sunspeaker. And now we're going to go ahead and transition into red-green with Grand Warlord Radha. 2 red-green for a 3/4 elf warrior with haste that says whenever one or more creatures you control attack, add that much mana in any combination of red and or green until end of turn. You do not lose mana as steps and phases end. So basically, you're going to want to make some creatures and then attack with them and then add mana however you want to use that mana for the rest of the turn to cast spells in your second main phase. So let's go ahead and jump right into it with the ramp cards. Soul Ring and Search for Tomorrow allow us to have something to do on turn 1. So on turn 1 you can either play Soul Ring or you can suspend to a Search for Tomorrow. So Search for Tomorrow lets you get any basic land, and when it comes in it's untapped. So if you do suspend this on 1 on your turn 3, because you'll suspend it on 1, and then on your turn 2 it'll go down to 1 counter, and on turn 3 it'll have no counters, and then you'll be able to go right there at that point before you even do your draw to go get a land and shuffle up and be able to start off the turn with that land and play untapped. So good 1 mana ramp spells here. Then we have we are playing green, so we have access to all the perfect sorcery speed ramp cards on 2, like Rampant Growth, Secord Tribuilder, Nature's Lore, and Farseek, which all just let us go put a land into play. And in the case of Nature's Lore, it has to be a forest, but it's untapped, and the rest of these are just any basic land. And Farseek, it can't be a forest, but you're already going to have a forest if you played it, so you're just going to want to go grab a mountain with that. Then we move on to our 3 and 4 mana sorcery ramp cards and Cultivate Kodama's Reach, which allow you to put a land into play and put a land and replace the card itself with a card in your hand. And then Explosive Edge and Sky Shroud's Claim for that 4 mana, get 2 lands out of your deck. In the case of Sky Shroud, it has to be forest, but they come into play untapped. For our removal, we're running Corrosion Grip and Bane of Progress. Bane of Progress destroys all artifacts and enchantments, and then it grows big based on how many were destroyed that way. And for us, like, we're not doing a lot of ramp in the artifact realm. They're all pretty much sorceries except for Soul Ring, of course. So that's not really going to hurt us too much. And, Corrosion Grip here has split second, so it gets rid of an artifact or enchantment. Can kind of stop an infinite combo from going off there. As far as Chaos Warp here, sometimes you get the brunt end of it when that permanent that's shuffled in turns out their top of the card of the library is a better permanent, but, hey, that's what you got to do sometimes when you have a pesky one around, and Beast Within is just solid to trade them 3/3 green beast for whatever permanent is causing you trouble. In the case of Hull Breach and Decimate, these do the same thing. They get rid of artifacts, creatures, enchantments, and lands, and then artifacts and enchantments respectively. It's important to note that you do have to have 4 targets for Decimate in order to play it, and then in the case of Hull Breach, you could just choose the artifact, choose an enchantment, or choose both, so you could play it even if there's only 1 target, but you want to wait for 2 targets, obviously. And then with the Decimate, if you absolutely needed to, you can get rid of one of your own of those 4 if you only have 3 other valid targets and they're causing you trouble. Then we're running Neverall's Disc, which is just like a board wipe for artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. Blasphemous Act to deal 13 to each creature. Mizzium Warders to get 4 in with the overload to each creature you don't control. And then Vandal Blast to destroy all the artifacts that you don't control. So a little utility removal suite here in the form of boardish wipes. And moving on to the draw, we're running Lightcrafter's Bestiary because it allows us to scry on our upkeep, so that's the reason. And then also too, we're running creatures in the deck, obviously, because we want to attack with them and gain that mana. So whenever we cast a creature, we get to add green. And then Sunbird's Invocation, which allows us to, whenever we cast a spell, to look at the top X and then cast something with X or less, where X is the spell's converted mana cost. So it's just a really good a source of cheap stuff into play and getting cards from the top of our deck. Then we're going to harmonize, just draw 3 cards for 4. Shamanic Revelation to gain some life for each creature we control with 4 or greater, and then draw a card for each creature we control. And Rich Cards Expertise to draw cards greatest to the power and get a 5 CRC or less. And then Praetor's Council I included in the card draw suite because we're going to have a lot of sorceries going to our graveyard, and we're going to have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. We'll be able to get all those sorceries back to our hand. With the draw, we included the cards like Elemental Bond to when a creature comes in with 3 or greater, we can draw a card. And Zendikar Resurgence, which whenever we cast a creature, we draw a card, and then it also doubles up all of our mana. And then Outpost Siege and Vance's Blasting Cannons to get us cards exiled from the top that we can cast and play respectively. As far as the utility, we're running Strionic Resonator, so 2-tap copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. So if this had a reminder text, it would say that if like an ability says whenever, that is a triggered ability. So the commander's ability has that. Whenever a creature you control attacks, you get to add that mana. That's triggered. So it's important to note that like whenever your creatures attack, you get to add that mana. So let's say you swing with 2 creatures, and then you get to the trigger goes off to add 2 mana in any color of the combinations. So with the Strionic Resonator, the 2 mana that you're going to get from that, you do not have yet. So you have to have 2 mana available if you want to copy that. And in this case, because you spent 2 mana to copy it, you wouldn't have any actual gain on that. But like as soon as you have 3 creatures attack, using 2 mana that you have open to copy the ability is going to get you 6 mana, and you only spent 2 mana to do it. So you net 4 mana when normally you would have only netted 3 mana in that scenario. So obviously the more creatures you have, the more times you want to use Strionic Resonator, and then otherwise, if it's anything 2 or less, you're not going to gain it. You're not going to get any extra gain. Dragon Lair Spiders in the utility here because it creates token wars, and every time an opponent casts a spell, you get a 1/1 green insect. That's going to be value 10 when it gets back around to our turn, because we're going to be able to attack with those creatures, and we don't care if they die or not because they were free for us to get, and then we get to add mana from them. So the Master of the Wild Hunt, the Rabble Master, the Rampaging Baloth, and the Avengers of Zendikar are here. All 4 of these cards are in the deck just because, well, they're good on their own, but mainly because they create tokens that we can use to attack and gain mana. And then we have Scavenging Ooze for hard to deal with stuff out of graveyards. We can just get rid of it permanently. Orc Battle Traveler to give all the other creatures we control a little boost, and also to give all of our creatures haste. Champion of Lambholt to keep getting bigger and make our stuff so that it's unblockable. And then Hellrider, because we're attacking a lot, we want to be able to deal 1 damage to defending player every time one of our creatures attacks, in addition to getting that extra mana from our commander. Then we move on to the cards that care about mana, which is the Radha Hired to Keld and the Savage Ventmaw. So both of these are kind of like our commander's ability, but like on their own bodies. The Hungry cards, which we're gonna dump. They're hungry for mana, so like in the case of the Elemental here, it's a multi-kicker green, so you could pay 4 and then like dump all that mana that you got from combat into this thing to get more wolves to fuel the deck further on, getting more mana later on. Telenali Summoner is going to work real well because the tokens, if we get the City's Blessing, don't exile. So like this just attacks. It already added 1 green from you from it attacking, and then you just dump a bunch of mana in there and then get a bunch of dudes. So the dudes are tapped in attacking, so I don't believe that they create mana for you because you're already past the phase, but I don't know. You're going to want to ask a judge about that rolling as far as the tokens that come in, if they produce mana or not. I don't believe that they do, but I'm not a judge. So it's just the synergy is real when it comes to attacking in this deck. And then the Fireball and the Comet Storm are like good cards to use with all that mana that you're going to be getting from all your creatures attacking. And then we talk about the dump card. So mana hungry dump, right? So you're going to dump all that mana into these hydras here that are going to allow you to get more creatures and then just like ping respectively. And then also in a Hangerback, which when it dies creates creatures, and then Walking Ballista. So just great way to use the mana that we get to dump it into creatures. And then as far as winning the game, we have some ways that we can win with, of course, the Zealous Conscripts Kiki Jiki Mirror Breaker combo. So if you don't know, like, I mean, maybe you don't, I don't know, but these two cards right here are infinite on their own as far as token produced. The Zealous Conscripts says when an ETB, you gain control of a permanent untapped and it gains haste. So when that happens, you gain control of Kiki, and Kiki has haste, but double haste now, and you tap it to create a token that's a copy of a non-legendary, which in this case you're going to copy Zealous Conscripts, and the Zealous Conscripts is going to ETB, and you're going to copy Kiki, and then you're going to gain control of Kiki rather, and then Kiki will become untapped, and then you just make infinite Zealous Conscripts, or an arbitrarily large amount of set determined number Zealous Conscripts that are all 3/3 with haste, and then they all attack, and you get infinite mana, infinite tokens this way if you're in your main phase when this combo goes off. Most of the time people are just going to scoop if they don't have an immediate answer. And then we have Aggravated Assault and Hellkite Charger, which is going to give us infinite combat steps so long as we have 7 creatures that are attacking with Hellkite Charger and 5 creatures attacking with Aggravated Assault. Combat Celebrant, when it's teamed up with Helm of the Host, also does the same exact thing. And then finally, if those pretty much infinite combo type of cards don't work, you could use cards like Stone Hoof Chieftain, Triumph of the Horde, Overwhelming Splendor, and Thunderfoot Bailoff to get in for trample damage. So you pump all your team up and then trample over, and then some of them get indestructible, some of them get +X+X, some of them just get like a +2/+2, and then in the case of Triumph of the Horde, you're going to be trying to get that infect win. We run 3 protection spells: Swiftfoot, Lightning Greaves, and Whisper Silk Cloak. So these spells are nice because Whisper Silk gives the unblockability, and then we want at least these 3 spells to protect our commander because the commander is so important to the strategy of the deck. We're running 10 forests and 8 mountains for 36 lands in total. The highlights besides Ghost Quarter are Arch of Araska because it draws us cards at a low opportunity cost, Blighted Woodland to let us get 2 basics out of our deck later on, and then Kessig Wolf Run, which allows our creatures to get +X+0 and trample until end of the turn. For extras for this deck, you want to make sure that you're bringing plenty of D6s and D20s because the deck is gonna need them to keep track of what color mana you have and how much of it you have until the end of your turn after combat, and then just to track your life total, and then how many different types of tokens you have. This deck uses 0/1 plants, 1/1 insects, 1/1 goblins, 1/1 elementals, 1/1 flying thopters, the City's Blessing token, the XX Hydra. So this is a Star Hydra token. I couldn't find an XX token. It's important to note that Star indicates that the power toughness continues to change, and XX means it's something determines it, and then once it's determined, it's static. So the Hydras are static; they don't keep changing once you get them off the Hydra that creates these Hydras. And then the 4/4 beast token, and then you got your 2/2 wolf, and then the 3/3 beast is for your beast within for whatever you decide to target with that if you see it in a game. And that's it for the extras. This deck is rather expensive. It can cost you anywhere from $140 all the way up to about $180 if you get all the tokens and the extras and stuff, but $175 from TCG Direct, and then $140 from any seller. So even on the low end at $140, I know that's not the cheapest deck possible, but this deck runs very efficient, and it's a nice little girl deck for you to rock out. This deck's number 1,092,735 on EffinAMtGGoldfish.com. You could find it over there. I'd really give it a try a lot. I'm gonna put this deck together for myself and replace my Omnath deck with this deck because a lot of the pieces are in there, and then the rest of them I could just kind of pick up here and there, and I just think that this deck is just a blast to play. You really get to attack a lot, add a bunch of mana, and then do some crazy stuff with that mana. Might be important for you to add some more protection from Grand Warlord Radha because it's so crucial to the deck, but it's a fun deck. Try it out. As usual, just some credits here. A reminder that you can check out June Gray on twitch.tv. That's my buddy John Hill. He made the GLHF logo that I'm using. I make all the decks using EDH, Rec, and Scryfall, and I put them together on MTG Goldfish using TCG player prices. Magic the Gathering is a product of Wizards of the Coast, and you can check them out on magic.wizards.com. And if you want to email me, hit me up over at EffinAMtG@gmail.com. Hey, that's going to do it this time. We'll see you in a couple weeks for another Commander Deck Tech. I hope you enjoyed this one. I know it's kind of expensive, but really, it's a lot of fun. And if you want to give it a try, let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment below, and tell me what's going on. What do you think about this deck? If there's anything you'd put in or whatever, and then hit the bell if you want to get some notifications on other videos. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Joshua Jones with GLHF MTG, and we'll catch you next time.